And we are live. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Hello to everybody now and in the future. I'm Viv Adcock, your host for today's conversation. And we're having these incredible conversations about Gary Douglas. Who is Gary Douglas? So today I am joined by my wonderful fellow unicorn tamer,
Yes.
dragon rider, and fellow facilitator, Alison Cox. Yay!
Yay! Thanks, Viv. So happy to be here.
So I invited you on because there's something very unique about Gary Douglas with his facilitation. And for those people that either haven't been facilitated by him or been on a class with him, whether it's online on a telecall or live, Alison, what is it like being facilitated by Gary? Because you've had plenty of up close and personal interactions with him. Take it away.
Oh, yeah. Well, I was just telling you, I just got off a call with him and a bunch of other people about money. And I asked a question on there, not really what I love. There's so many things I could say about Gary Douglas and not say because there are no words in the English language to describe. But you can, what I love is you can ask him a question, even if you have no idea what the heck you're saying. And even if you're like, molecules are going crazy. Like today, I'm like, I know I need to ask something. And my body's telling me because it's so like, you need to talk. So I just opened my mouth and not even sure if I said a question. I might have even said, what is my question to Gary? And he has such a like amazing way of diving into your whole universe and your world, basically what you be, and also has a cool way of looking at where you're sticking yourself and going in with a scalpel and kind of like blasting that open for you in the weirdest ways that you would never expect or predict, I would say. Yeah.
That is such an eloquent way of describing it. He does have this energetic, precision, succinct scalpel where he just has this sense of knowing where it is that you're stuck, or knowing what it is that, you know, the energy or the point of view that's in there that, like you say, most of the time we've got no conscious awareness of, but we know there's something bubbling there.
Yeah. And it's so cool. Like any question or wedgie, a wedgie is kind of like, you'll know what a wedgie is when you get one.
Oh, yes.
Amazing. But any question he asks, I know that I can ask a year later, 5 years later, 10 years later, and I'm going to get a completely different awareness around it also. Like it never, ever stops contributing, which is kind of the acoustical flavor of his facilitations.
Yeah, absolutely. And then let's bring in the horse world, because it's interesting. It was watching Gary. I mean, I've been playing with the tools of access and been a facilitator for, I don't know, 18 years or so now. And in the old days when the website was this little tiny thing held up by matchsticks, though on the very front page was a video of Gary facilitating a horse that had entities. And I'm like, what is this weird stuff, you know? And yet the rapid transformation that I saw on video with Gary working with this horse, I'm like, what the hell just happened? What went on there? It was undeniable. Even to the untrained horse person's eye, they would see a massive transformation. So I don't know whether you can speak to this, Alison, because I know you're one of the conscious horse, conscious rider facilitators in the world. So I don't know, is there something that you can add to that? Like, what is that with Gary and horses and the energy he bees with them, and how does that facilitate people? That's a big question.
Oh my God. Yeah. Well,
how long have we got?
Yeah, seriously. I'm like, this contributes to me every day with Gary and horses, because one of the things he says is, you know, everything I ever learned, I learned from a horse. And becoming a conscious rider facilitator, I started applying that everywhere. I'm like, what's he talking about? So I started to apply that with how I act or react, or now don't have to react to people around me. Like when you react around a horse, the horse is going to react. So, you know, I'm like, okay, what would Gary do here on a horse in the situation, like in the grocery store or something? I'm like, okay, well, if I react, all of the horses are going to react. So what else could I choose? And he's always inviting you into question, especially through horses. He's really taught me that if you're not in question, if you come to conclusion with a horse, you're not going to be able to receive the what else is possible. Oftentimes you will get exactly what you've decided. Like, I think I'm going to fall. Oh, I am on the ground, instead of, something's like some energies are moving, something's occurring. What can I do or be here to change this? Or what is this? What do I do with it? Can I change it? And so just his like absolute knowing that question creates, horses and you are capable of something else other than what a lot of people have put points of view on, or like his absolute knowing of what he knows has inspired me to have absolute knowing of what I know with horses. Like I remember when I was a little kid, maybe in 8th grade, there was this dog that we found that got hit by a car. And I remember laying next to the dog. We brought it in our house somehow. I don't even know whose dog this was. I just remember this dog. It was like a golden retriever, and it was in our house. I'm like, we have a dog in our house. I know it has maybe broken legs, but who knows? But it was just like hurting in our house, and we are trying to find the owner. So I remember I'm like, what can I do for this dog? Well, I know in the movies there's these healing powers, and I don't know, in the movies you just go like, be with the thing and use your mind. So I laid next to this dog and I was like, you know, and the dog ended up, you know, I don't know what happened with the dog, but looking back on that, you know, I remember thinking like, I wish I had those powers. Like, I'm just going to be that and pretend. But looking back on that, I don't know why that popped in my memory not so long ago. I'm like, wow, I knew something. I knew that something was possible with contributing to others, choosing to heal or choosing to die or choosing anything. And so meeting Gary Douglas and Access Consciousness, the tools of Access Consciousness first. I didn't meet him right away. But really like his absolute knowing of that he can change something, and then, you know, applying that to, wow, I can change things too, not only in animal bodies and horses and people, but in I can be a contribution to people, animals, the earth, changing the trajectory of its future, even if it seems impossible to anybody else. And that's what I love about him, is he doesn't give a shit what you think is supposed to be possible. He will do everything in his power to get you to know that something else is possible. And that's, I feel like, his whole mission with how he facilitates, which can be very uncomfortable. And your molecules might shake before you ask a question, or you might not even ask a question, but just listening and receiving from his facilitations, which I did for probably like until last year. I'm just kidding. Receiving from, he doesn't do things for one person. He will like facilitate one person, which will change that person's universe, but he knows and acknowledges that that changes the entire world. So when you hop on a call with him, you're receiving from every single facilitation that each person is getting, or that you're choosing to receive, and contributing to everybody else. So I just think that's amazing. I don't know if that answered.
Beautifully, absolutely. I've got shivers, Troy. I've got shivers. It's making me a bit teary. That is such a beautiful, you know, I mean, again, it, like you said at the beginning, it's very challenging, and you don't want to define it, but try and put it into words for people to kind of grasp on some level. It is an experience that you have to experience. You know, you can hear other people talking about how it was for them, and like you say, I've had plenty of times shaking, my heart's racing, my palms are sweating before I get to the microphone or even pick the phone up to talk to him. You know, it's like, oh my God, you know some major change is coming, and it is completely undefinable. It's unfathomable. But there's a reach in your world when you do ask for something. This is the thing. And like you said so well, Ali, it's like this whole, his reach, his capacity to just in a 0.01 or 0.01 second be able to see exactly what it is, or be aware of the energy that's keeping you, you know, locked into some kind of limitation. And this, you know, everything I learned in life, I learned from a horse. It really, when I first time, like, what are you talking about, you know? And what you described earlier, this, if you're riding a horse, if you're around a horse, they're a big animal. They could easily stand on you, knock you over, bite you, you know.
They're made of muscle.
Yeah, we're aware of that. And yet the request to be present, the silent, gentle whisper and request that they invite us to be present with them. And like you said, any single thought that you're projecting, and especially if it's one that you're going over and over and over again, they react to that. They will respond to that energy instantaneously. Yeah. So then how does that translate into your everyday life, you know?
Oh my gosh, just so much. Like, even the things like Gary will tell horse stories as often as possible, which I personally love. And he'll always, like, sometimes if you're not being present, you might just think it's a story, but every single story he tells with horses is a facilitation that you can add into your life. I'm always like, and like, I work with access consciousness, and I'm an oracle. I type every single thing that Gary has said for a few years now. And I've heard the same stories, but every time he tells them, like, something changes in my world, which is so cool. And what I also love is the elegance of, like, you can, with horses, there's an elegance of a question. And he's really taught me that too. Like, you can use spurs, and you can use, like, tie their head down, and you can do all of these things to control the horse. But there's an elegant way of working with the horse, instead of powering over the horse, that when you ask a question, the horse will actually want to work with you and can gift and receive simultaneously what you're asking. And same with him. There's an elegance in his questions to you, an elegance in the gifting and receiving, that if you allow the question in, he doesn't have to spur you, and he's willing to spur you. Which I think is so funny, but it's just such a great facilitation for horses and everything. But he asked a question like, you know, if you ever feel like you're in competition, so in the horse world, there's lots of competition, and you might be comparing how you ride to somebody else, or how someone else, or another facilitator, whatever, someone else is doing something, and you might think like, well, I'm going to do it my way. And last week at the CF training, he was like, you don't want to ask, how can I do it my way? You want to ask, how can I do it as me? So if you see something that you love, like if you see someone riding or facilitating or winning the lottery or whatever it is for you, like if you see another person or being something, like, don't shut it off as I can do that, or judge it that I can do it my way. Because you're cutting off a whole universe of what that being or person has to share. When you ask, how do I do this as me? You get to include that person's world, your world, and create a whole totally different universe, kind of a new reality. You're creating a new reality while including everyone. So that's just another brilliant thing. Like, you can take his questions and just run with them if you're willing, as you, without having to figure out what the hell he means by anything.
And that, so cool. You know, if you're watching this and you're new to access consciousness or the tools, it is the complete opposite, probably, to anything you have ever come across, because that control that you were just talking about, where, you know, a lot of people want to control a horse and tie it down, and you've got so much energy and so much potential there. Why would you want to control that? Why would you want to tie it down? And yet this is what we do to ourselves. You know, this is what we're actually looking to have, that space and freedom and relaxation, just to relax and find our way and work out what works for us. You know, what is our reality? What, if I was doing this a la Viv, a la Alison, what would we choose? And that the tagline of Access is empowering people to know what they know, that they know, that they know, because you already do know.
Yeah.
And this is the gift, you know, well, if I was doing this as Alison, what would I choose and be here? It creates that space for you to explore and, you know, adventure into your own universe with who you are and what you actually do know, rather than trying to get it right or perfect or right in a certain way because somebody or some book or some course has told you that this is the right, good, perfect way. And it's like every horse is different. Every person is different. And if you're willing to be present, what journey can that take you on? And this whole getting out of control thing is huge for all of us.
Totally. And control doesn't allow you to do it your way at all. Like I would just suggest to everyone to at least get around a horse or get on a horse and see what the heck we and Gary are talking about, because we're basically like the universe on four legs. And they're so willing to teach you something every single time you interact with them.
Yeah.
Even if it's your own horse that you see every day. Yeah. And so the control thing, like if you need it to be a certain way, that just, like you said, kind of like takes away from how you and that horse can create. And every single horse is different with every single person. So if you have like the rules of the universe set and the rules of your life set, how are you allowing the universe to interact with you in your guys' own unique way? Which one of the things I've learned from horses for sure.
Something he's touched on before too, and I heard him talk about it at a recent class, is, you know, how there's a lead mare, there's a dominant mare in the herd, and her job is to lead the herd if they were out in the wild, you know, to pasture and water and keep them safe and etc. So he often talks about us being the leaders of our lives, and he acknowledges how the animal kingdom functions in that way. And so being the lead mare, she's aware of every horse. She doesn't have to keep turning around and checking and looking on everybody. They are so trusting in her. They've still got their own awareness, but they've chosen her. They trust her, knowing that she'll lead them to great pasture or whatever.
Yeah.
So having that awareness in your own life too, where you can be that lead mare, you can be the leader in your own life, still receive from everything and everyone around you, but know what it is that works for you, know where you're going. And the bit I wanted to add last week from a conversation last week was, if you're a horse person and you're around a lot of people on horses, you know, say in a riding school or you're on a trail ride or something like that, if you're the dominant person, if you're the person with the most horse experience and greatest awareness, you can be in the heads of every single horse involved in that ride, and you can be that sphere of influence, that sphere of energy that this lead mare could be. And I'm like, this is something I've been asking for so long. I was in a conscious horse, conscious rider class with him many, many years ago here in Australia, and there were people riding. We were in this massive arena and there were people riding all over the place. And one lady got into a little bit of trouble and her horse started to bolt with her and she was slowly falling, like she was sliding around under. Gary was at the other end of this Olympic size arena and he just didn't say a word, didn't do anything. And all of a sudden this horse just pulled up and it was like somebody just stopped the horse and put her back in the saddle. And I watched this, and about 2 minutes later, I wrote back to him. I went, "What did you just do?" And he said, "Nothing bad ever happens on my watch." And I went, "I'm having that, whatever that is," because I knew full well he changed what was about to occur with this lady.
Totally. That's amazing. Yeah.
What else is possible?
What else is possible? I love that. That like wiped my brain. I'm like,
So, Alison, tell me a little bit about Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider.
Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider. So Gary created this specialty class of access consciousness called Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider, which involves you and horses. And I think one of the stories I heard of how it started was there was a lady that he and Dane were facilitating or out with, and she had problems with her horse. It was too much for her. So every time she wanted to ride her horse, she had to drug the horse. And they were like, okay, like that's a choice. And also there's got to be something else that's possible. Like, you know, so they started applying the access consciousness tools to horses and how you could ride or be with the horse, and also involving the horse. Like, what are you communicating in Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider? There's so many tools. There's like a manual with all these tools that you can use with your horse, with you as a rider, and then apply to your life. But you know, when you have a horse that is unrideable or you can't handle, you, instead of coming to conclusion and stopping your greatest capacity to stop yourself, you could stop the conclusion and ask questions. And Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider is just this, it's not brand new, but I'd say it's still like so under the radar of like what else is possible in the horse world. It is a set of tools that you can use and add to anything. It is not like this, you know, this type of thing is wrong and this type of thing is right, and you shouldn't race horses and you shouldn't barrel race. No, you get to add all of these things into what you and the horse would like to do, and acknowledge what maybe you and the horse would not like to do, so that you don't get an angry rider and a angry horse.
Imagine that, happy people and happy horses in communion with each other, riding a horse like a centaur.
Exactly.
Being at one, truly being at one with your horse. And you know, when you see these people that are bridleless and saddleless and they're galloping across and they're totally connected, it's like, if that sense of freedom is something that, you know, anyone watching this is after, please look at Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider. It changes your concept on trust. It changes your concept on vulnerability. It changes your concept on, you know, honoring the animal and honoring yourself. And there's a totally different way to be. So,
yeah.
And I believe you have some Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider classes coming up.
Yes. And I just want to say, like, the tools that you learn in Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider are so weird, because I just use them all the time and I work with horses. I did not grow up with horses, but I'm becoming, I would say, a pretty good trainer or like a different trainer, where literally being able to know what the horse is saying, quote unquote, or being, or, you know, can I get on you? Yes. Having it be so loud and clear with these tools is bizarre. So I've been getting on stallions that have either never or barely been trained, and they're like, get on today. I'm like, are you for real? Okay. And they're like, I'm like, what is happening? So anyway, there's just like things that should not occur that occur when you use these tools. Just saying, horse people and non-horse people. Be surprised what you can do.
Yeah.
But yeah, we have some classes. There's Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider facilitators that do classes all around the world. And you can actually go to conscioushorse.com to see them, or look them up on the Access Consciousness website. But Sarah Watt and I have one coming up next week at the best place to ride horses in the world, Elugar. Viv is going to be there next week too. Or is that next week? Or in a week and a half, something.
Yeah.
But we have one of those, and then, you know, another one in India. But this next one that's coming is just like, just one of my favorite places to have a Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider class.
So last thing I want to leave people with, if you are a horse person, or even if you've never been near a horse, one of the greatest tools I heard Gary talk about is, you know, before you get on and ride, a lot of people have this massive fear of falling off or getting hurt, or, you know, they've heard disaster stories, and that gets lodged in there and can stop you from actually having your own unique way and experience with horses. So if I ride you today, will you take care of me? And that's what Alison's referring to, you know, and most people don't even consider that. They just get on and ride the horse. They don't have that communication or that honoring, I guess, of this animal has choice too. So,
and you want to ask that every day.
Yes.
Like, will you take care of me? You want to ask your horse every day. And what would happen if you asked that of the universe every single morning? Universe, will you take care of me today? Who am I today, and what grand and glorious adventures will I have? Like, what if the world is your horse?
Yeah. Thank you so much, Alison. So the Conscious Horse, Conscious Rider specialty is a kind of distilled version of Gary's, I don't know, 50, 60 years, 70 years, 80 years of horsemanship that he's experienced in his life. And he's so generous with his knowledge, his awareness, his capacities. He is one person that is eating, breathing, walking, talking generosity of being and generosity of spirit. So if you haven't checked Gary Douglas out, please, I do have a banner here somewhere. Maybe this is the right one. Phew, that's the right one. You never know what's going to come up. Check out GaryDouglas.com. He has telecalls. He has live classes. He has classes that you can attend online. And like Alison said, there are thousands of access consciousness facilitators worldwide that are teaching access bars and a wide variety of specialty classes. So, Alison, thank you so much, my friend. I look forward to giving you a big hug in Aligar in not too many sleeps.
Yes, thank you so much. This is so fun.
Thanks, everybody. See you next time.
Bye.
Bye.